Welcome everybody to the Prime Real Estate Mastermind. We do these once a month, every third Saturday, typically from about 9 o'clock to about 10:30. We bring on an expert guest to dig into all things real estate. This month we have Darren Voros. He's very well known on the investor circuit. Darren and I go back a number of years, and he's done some incredible things, both on the speaking circuit, but actually hands-on development wise with investment properties. And we're going to be digging into multifamily investing, specifically adding apartment units. So taking really cool properties and converting them into multifamily buildings. Everybody's looking for inventory. So one of the best ways may to be to actually create the inventory yourself. I completely tricked her into getting her license and coming to work for me. She actually has a background in design from Humber College, worked at a flooring company, a cabinetry company. And again, investor focused design is getting the high level look that you want to get those top end rents for your ARVs without breaking the bank. And then Kyle Henry. So Kyle Henry is a new construction, new development specialist. Again, he worked on site as a plumber in new home construction. His brother has a background in BC and actually building. So you're seeing you are working with actual tactical people when it comes to real estate investing. Lindsay and Kyle are going to dig into a very high level as to what we're seeing in the marketplace. We network across the country every single Wednesday with real estate agents, both in Canada and the US, to see what's happening, to give you a look at what's coming. Because if we can keep you a few steps ahead, usually puts you in a place to succeed. We've seen the market shifting over the last couple of months. A lot of our meetings have been a softening in the market, but we are noticing a bit of a shift now. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be a very interesting conversation. Eric Scarfoni, our producers on the back end, doing all tech support. Clearly, I probably don't have the best connection on the planet, so I'm going to let these experts run the show. And again, I've done a podcast with Darren myself before, so go check that one out on the previous episodes. It's awesome. I'll have him back on Prime People soon, but I'm going to bring on Kyle and Lindsay and let them kick it off. Kyle and Lindsay, how are you doing today?
Good. Yeah. Good morning, everyone.
Awesome. So I'm going to back out. I'm going to let you guys take over. Why don't you educate people on what is happening in the marketplace, and then you can bring on Darren and kick off the interview.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Justin, for that great intro. Kyle and I have definitely been seeing a shift in the market. And again, as Justin was saying, we meet with realtors all across Canada every Wednesday just to get the lowdown on what's happening. We're in London, so it's a tertiary market from a lot of the larger, like Toronto, where we're hearing different things happening, and that's trickling down into our market. So it's good to stay ahead of things. But yeah, as Justin was saying, there has been a little bit of a shift. What do you think, Kyle? What are you seeing on the ground?
Yeah, 100% there's been a shift. I think, 6, even 3 months ago, it was bananas and pandemonium in the marketplace. And then we saw a little bit of a shift for the buyers where it kind of leveled out a little bit where, instead of 25 offers, you were going up against maybe 5 offers, which is still competitive, but a lot less competitive, of course. And now I think that we're starting to see it kind of rebound a little bit more in the seller's favor. Again, it's kind of going like this up and down roller coaster a little bit. So that's what I'm seeing with my boots on the ground.
Yeah. And awesome. Thanks, Kyle. And I think we've been kind of seeing that all along. Like even in those really, really hot times, we were seeing like weeks where it would kind of dip off a little bit, just with that herd mentality. Everyone is going where they hear in the media, it's a good time to sell. And then everyone lists their house. And then maybe it's not such a good time to sell. So we're seeing that kind of ping pong effect happening. Yeah. But kind of saw it a little bit stronger with that June 1st mortgage changes. People were on the sidelines a little bit more. And then Ontario opening up a little bit. But as you said, I think I'm seeing the same thing. Like it's rebounding a little bit more. So our sellers that were taking, or our buyers that were taking advantage of that time really got some wins. So in the last couple of weeks, we had some buyers that took great advantage of this market. They were able to get a duplex in St. Thomas under contract and firmed up on it under $400,000. Wow. So it definitely a win for them. They have about $120,000 between their purchase price and their ARV, which for anyone that doesn't know, ARV, after repair value. So such a win, because I think the total renovation is going to maybe cost about $60,000. So it's going to be a really great property for them.
That's incredible.
And And I was able to get a property as well during this time. I'm going to do a secondary suite conversion. So I'm so excited to take you guys through it. I'm also so excited to have Darren and Alona on today to talk about conversions because it's hot on my mind. So I've got lots of questions for them. But yeah, thanks for doing this with me. It's great to really get everyone's opinion in our market too, because people might be seeing different things. You work with a lot of pre-construction. What are you seeing in the pre-construction world?
Yeah, so what I noticed a lot, especially from January of this year to now, people who were in the traditional resale market were getting a lot of burnout and a lot of pushback because they're going up against all these multiple bid situations. So we saw a surge in the new construction side of things because it's less competitive. You get to pick all your finishes. It's pretty much, your dream house right out of the gate, which is really nice, especially for first-time home buyers. Those were a lot of people that I was noticing coming over to the new construction side of things. But again, you still have a ton of investors who are interested in pre-construction because of the appreciation factor. If you can get in early enough in a new construction development and you get into those kind of early bird pricings, you can really make a lot of money if the market continues to, kind of inflate the way it has been. So it's been really busy in the new construction space for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it's so great to get your opinion on that because I know you do a lot in the pre-construction and it's a hot topic as well because when that market heats up, everyone kind of goes to that pre-construction because there's a little less competition. So great to know what you're seeing. So thanks, Kyle. And for anyone that doesn't know Kyle or follow Kyle already, check him out on Instagram. He is killing it. So thanks for joining. Always great to see you. And yeah, thanks, Kyle. So without further ado, we're going to bring on Darren and Alona, and they are killing it in the, as Justin was saying, the the apartment conversions. So I'm so excited to get into it. I'd love to hear how you guys started. Is it REDI Investments? Is that, yeah? I'd love to hear how that kind of came to be. So if you guys want to talk us through the background of how that all happened. And first of all, I'm going to do a little housekeeping. I forgot to do that. Any comments or questions, you guys throw those in and we will answer them as we go. So if you have any burning questions as we're talking, make sure you get into the comments and get your questions there. But without further ado, take it away. Let us know how this joint venture partnership kind of came to be.
Hi, good morning, Lindsay. Thank you so much for having us on today. Yeah, I think maybe I'll take this one. Last year, after I joined Keyspire, actually, I got laid off from my job after COVID, as I'm sure a lot of people listening did as well. And just started networking with everybody in Keyspire. And one of the people that I was introduced to was Darren at the time. And we both had a passion for doing projects in Toronto and especially conversions and building, really developing. And really, we just started nurturing this relationship that we have. And REDI wasn't born until about a year later, thanks to all the projects that we've done and that kind of thing. But really, it was just about putting it out there, seeking what you're wanting and what you're looking for. And I think that we came together in at the right time, at the right place, and really just wanted to do similar projects. So we just really just kept the conversation going, and then opportunities came pretty quickly, I think, more quickly than I think we were both expecting. And then once we started talking about what we were doing, more opportunities came, and it just really grew organically after that. And once people, like I said, started seeing the type of projects that we were doing, they started sending us those type of projects, and then it just snowballed from there. And then a year later, we incorporated, and now we're REDI Development, and we're excited to do more of these type of projects.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, it's a great story how, like, just as you start doing it, everything seems to come your way. And as you put that out more, it just becomes easier. I know the first one always seems so daunting. And then once you get started, like, it just seems like they keep rolling in. So if you can let us know what projects you guys are working on right now, that would be awesome.
Yeah, right now we're working on 3 conversions in Toronto. So basically what we do is we find these large single family homes on large lots in the West End, and we convert them into 8-unit apartment buildings. So we have Project Oakmount, Project Overcourt, and Project Glen Lake, which we just recently closed on in April. And all of those are pretty much the same idea. And although, because we're using the existing structure, it's pretty difficult to on the construction side, but that's Darren's forte, and I'll let him take that. And thankfully, I partnered with the right person, because he's a complete expert when it comes to construction and retrofitting and that kind of thing. So super blessed there. And we have another project coming up in the fall/winter, a little bit different than what we're doing here in Toronto. It's outside of the city in Barrie. And this is a lot assembly, and we'll be building a 44-unit condo on that lot. So we're closing probably more so like in the winter time, but we're really excited for that one too, and to dive into something that's a little bit bigger and really more exciting, I think.
That's awesome. I'm sure everyone is curious how you're finding these projects. So are you finding them on MLS? Are other people bringing them to you? How are you identifying these opportunities? Yeah,
I think, Darren, you want to take that
one? No. Keep going. You're doing well. I'm just going to sit here and listen and enjoy my coffee. I'm usually the one doing all the talking, so this is perfect.
I think in the beginning, it was just kind of, like I said, it happened organically. The numbers just don't really work on when you're, we're purchasing single family homes for almost anywhere from $2 to $3 million. So putting 2 units in a house like that does not work numbers wise. But we did want to be in Toronto. We both have a passion for being in the city, and we just wanted to make it work. And with the zoning bylaws and kind of what's allowed in Toronto, we just, like I said, the ideas just came about naturally, and we just started doing these 8 units. And the first one was brought to us from a conversation, and it's just really all about networking. It's really about who you know, who you talk to. Yes, we've purchased them on MLS too, but really it's because people are sending them to us. Like we got, Glen Lake, the very first hour it was listed on the MLS, it was in our inbox, because we tell everybody we know, this is what we're looking for. Every time I talk to somebody, every time Darren talks to somebody, we turn single family homes into 8-unit apartment buildings in the West End of Toronto. So as soon as any realtor, even other investors bring us opportunities, they're like, hey, I was looking at this project, it's too big for me. I know Darren and you are doing these type of projects. Is this something you'd be interested in? People send us off-market opportunities because they know our model. So once you get really clear on what you're doing and just start telling everybody in the world what you're looking for, I feel like the universe just brings it to you, and it's really not as difficult as searching it out, and you're in a better position when things are brought to you. Same goes with investors, deals, whatever, right?
Yeah, that is awesome. I think it's so important too, because there's a lot of investors that just count Toronto out because it is so expensive, and because as you said, you're buying what would be a duplex you convert in, and the numbers just don't work. So I love that you guys thought outside of the box, use that development background, construction, all of that to really create something that just totally works. What type of zoning do you find for these properties? Are they already zoned for this, or is that something that you have to walk through?
Yeah, we only purchase properties in the R zone. So we don't go and try to rezone. We do go into committee for minor variance application. But that's just, pretty much anything you do, you have to do that. But our realtors know, really, and this is one of the things, I think this is the first thing Darren ever taught me, is look at the zoning first, because that's the last thing you want to do is go out, see a property and waste your time if it's not zoned properly. In Toronto, it's nice because there are pockets that are already zoned for multifamily, regardless of the fact of, there's a single family home there right now. So we only purchase properties that are already in the R zone, meaning it could be anything from a single family home all the way up to an apartment building.
That's awesome. Yes. Can you walk us through what this kind of conversion looks like? Like when you find a deal, what happens at that point?
I'll let Darren walk you through the process.
I think, our first, we just taught a course on this actually. So it's pretty fresh in our minds. But it's a complicated process in some ways. And I think in other ways, it's like any other transaction. I think it's just a much bigger scale, and what goes into it is just a little bit more complicated. But we kind of when we see an opportunity, we'll obviously go take a look at it, and from our experience, we know what kinds of properties will work, because we're creating as much density as we are. We're looking to really look at the property that exists there now, but also what's around it. A lot of our projects are on corner lots, or they're in neighborhoods that have density around them. We're not going into a single family neighborhood trying to put an 8-unit apartment building. Even in Toronto, that's just not going to work. You're going to have so many neighbors show up, to committee and protest your, apartment building, because they think all apartment buildings are created equal and that you're going to be a slumlord, right? And that's not at all what we do. So we really have to target neighborhoods that, have some density, that we feel our application is going to be approved. To Alona's point, the zoning is already there. We can do an apartment building, but we do need some minor variances on pretty much all of our projects. So that's an application. But we start with a basic design. We start with, what could this look like? Can we do an addition off the back? Can we do an addition off the front? Do we need to underpin to lower the basement? We just kind of get a general sense of where we want to go and what we want to do. And then we start working with our architects right away. And we submit our plans to the city. Then we have to wait. And then we go through the minor variance application process, which used to take 3 to 4 months, now takes 6 to 8 months because of COVID. Some of the projects we can actually start doing some work prior to getting our 8-unit approval. And some of that work can be done under like a single family dwelling permit. So we'll do some underpinning and maybe the foundation extensions under a different permit. And then we get our 8-unit approval, and then we can kind of go all out in construction. But, it takes some time. It takes us about 12 months to get our projects completed, sometimes a little bit more, depending on how much time we have to wait at committee. And we were really lucky with one of our projects that we purchased it as an 8-unit approval already. And so that really helped us in terms of timeline. Although, having said that, we did have to kind of redo a lot of the things because we didn't like their floor plans. And, we go about things in a certain way. Like we did all new, we're getting into construction terms now, but we did all new floor assemblies. We did everything. Basically, we kept the shell of the building, and everything else is brand new. So that was quite the process. But it's a complicated project in a lot of ways, and just everything that goes into it. But at the same time, it's a conversion. It's taking an existing building and adding density. That's really what it boils down to.
Yeah, it's so exciting to watch you guys do it too. And I love that you guys are posting so much on your YouTube, walking people through it, walking through all of the different things that happen, good and bad. Because I think that's so important to highlight, is these projects do look intimidating and there are a lot of moving parts with them. But when you can break that down for people and show people that you've done it and they could do it, I think that that's really inspiring. But how are you funding these deals?
Alona's wallet, basically. It all comes out of there. I think we're using a combination of a lot of things. And this is why we really liked this idea of going from a single family dwelling, or in some cases, like a duplex or something like that, to an 8-unit apartment building. And this was a bit of a niche market that we stumbled upon. And part of the reason is that, we were just, when you're trying to buy $1 million properties in Toronto, you're competing with everyone else on the market. Every first-time home buyer is trying to find $1 million property. When we got to the $2 million range, you eliminate a lot of people, right? And you also have this formula that we are buying residential properties, and most of them are in livable shape, right? And so we're going in and we're applying for residential financing. So we're getting this low interest rate financing at, sub 2% on the purchase because the building is a residential building. And then we go through the construction process, right? And so oftentimes what we're using for that is a secondary loan, a private loan in most cases. So we're borrowing at 10, 12% on a private construction loan, which some of our loans, we need to go through the quantity surveyor process, which if you're not familiar with that is basically somebody checking up on our work to make sure that the work has been done, and then they coordinate with the lender. Some we just go private, and we're doing like an appraisal kind of 2 or 3 times throughout the process. It's all done on a draw. Basically, as we progress through the construction, we're getting money that's being relayed back to us. And then on the back end, this is our favorite part. On the back end of these deals, because we're 8 units, now we're into commercial financing. And so then we can do our takeout financing with CMHC. So we can go up to 85% loan to value. We can amortize over 40 years. And we're still getting quoted, sub 2% on interest rates. So, and also because now we've got 8 units that are generating revenue, it's not really that important who's qualifying for the financing, because it's not us personally that they're looking at, or our corporate structure or our limited partnership agreement. It is now the building is qualifying for financing. And because we've got these great locations in Toronto that are basically brand new builds, CMHC loves them. So that was kind of our formula, was residential on the front side if we can get it, construction financing on the private, and then takeout financing on the commercial side.
Amazing. Now, speaking of construction, I kind of want to pop in here just more out of curiosity, but with my experience doing pre-construction, working hand in hand with builders all the time, I'm very well tuned with what's going on with construction material costs, supply chain issues, things like that. So how have those inflated material costs and delayed supply affected your strategy, if at all? And how have you had to adapt within the last 15 months, call it?
Well, I'll be very honest. We did not build in enough contingency, but who would have thought that a 2x4 would have gone to 4 times the cost? But hey, you know what? When you're carrying at $10,000 a month, which is basically our carrying cost, you don't stop. I mean, I just think that the nice thing about what's happened in our market, and I assume, most of the markets across the country, with the exception of maybe a few provinces, is that the cost of real estate has kept up with the cost of material increase, right? So although we were projecting, let's say a $4 million after repair value on our Dovercourt project, for instance, our material cost went from $35,000 to probably $120,000. But if the make or break on your project is 60 or 70,000 on a $1.5 million renovation, that's what we're looking at, right? So if your make or break is $70,000 or $80,000, you're not working in the right projects, right? So the nice thing about the takeout financing on the back end is we have that lever that we can kind of pull with CMHC, and we can go 75 up to 85% loan to value. So if we want to pull a little bit more capital out to repay for some of the additional costs, we have that ability. But yeah, it's definitely affected everything. I mean, we can't get, we had to go with, a secondary supplier for some of our TGIs. Tubs have been an issue, just random things, and I think that's just planning and trying to get material on site as soon as you possibly can and not waiting until you need it. That's been the thing, but I think we're relatively on budget, and I think we're relatively on time. So I think we're feeling pretty grateful to our construction manager for doing all the things that he does.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Especially being on time, because the delays I've seen just doing single family construction, doors and trim can delay a project, kitchens, of course, will delay it. But I mean, it's just onesie twosie kind of random things that are being delayed, which is, crazy to see. Now, a good question came in actually for people who are looking to do this strategy, whether it's, starting out with a single family and doing a duplex conversion or a triplex conversion. What would your piece of advice be to somebody who is just starting out, who's interested in this type of strategy and is trying to learn from you two?
I think my biggest piece of advice is get in with the people that know what they're doing. Always look for a mentor, a partner, you know, education. Just be around the right people, because I can tell you, prior to doing this and prior to getting into an investing network, none of my friends were doing this. You know, like real estate investing was, I investing prior to doing this, more so in the pre-construction space and private lending, but really having the network around you where you can just pick up the phone and be like, hey, you know, I'm stuck here, or I need advice here. It is so powerful to have that network. And, you know, even Darren runs a mastermind called Synergy Mastermind, such a powerful group of people. We have a WhatsApp chat, you know, 30 super professional real estate investors that have all the knowledge. And I'm sure, you know, Lindsay and Kyle, you can attest to this too, is having the network around you is, you know, there, you can't replace that, right? Education, obviously, but I think that people get stuck in analysis paralysis, and they just want to just get educated it doesn't take you don't need 5 years of education to just jump in. And I'm a huge advocate of obviously partnerships, because I don't know the construction side. That's why I partnered with Darren. He's a genius. Like, he's been doing this for 20 something years. Like, you know, that in itself is a huge confidence builder, and I get to learn the construction process along the way. Not that I ever want to do it alone. I'll be straight up with you. There's no reason for me to do it alone. I love partnerships. I love working on a team and with people. So in the beginning, you know, it's not about, oh, I hear people say, I'm not going to do it until I can do it on my own. I don't want investors. I don't want partners. Partnerships fail, this and that. Do it even the first time. Do it to learn the process. Once you know the process and you know that it's just about finding the right people and insert here. You don't know how to do financing, call your mortgage broker. You don't know how to, you know, find the property, call the PRIME team. They'll find you one. They're the experts, right? So just having the right connections is really my number one probably advice to new people. And anyone can do it. It's just, you have to take some risk. You have to know the right people and really immerse yourself in learning the process.
I love that. That's such a good answer. And it's so funny because Kyle and I were actually just talking about this, and him maybe doing a joint venture as his first deal that he gets into for investment. And I'm like, do it. Like, as soon as you can do it, do it. 50% of something is a lot better than 0% or 100% of nothing. Yeah, I always mess that up. But do you think that you have to have a background in construction to accomplish something like this?
Your partner should.
Somebody needs to. Yeah. I mean, yeah. You know, either need to hire somebody who has the knowledge or, but, you know, I mean, there's a lot of people that are interested in using this same strategy. And we teach them, like, you don't have to do it. Like, you can have a general contractor, you can have a builder, you can have a lot of different people on your team. You need to be the quarterback of all that. But, you know, if you don't have, to Alona's point, if you don't have that skill set or that knowledge, you just need to bring people in, and you need to allocate for it in your numbers, right? I mean, if there's going to be somebody who needs to be a project manager aside from your general contractor, well, then you need to set aside 5 to 10% for a project management fee on top of everything else. And so I think it's just, you don't necessarily need to know everything, and you don't necessarily need to have the people on your team. If you do, that's amazing. Like I said, you know, Alona and I kind of are managing the projects. We have a construction manager who manages the job site. And, you know, we are tackling this on our own. But if you don't have those people, you just have to hire them and put them in place. And then you have to allocate for it in your pro formas.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that stops a lot of people from going, is they don't think that they have the knowledge to do it, but everyone is hireable. Like, I deal with so many people are like, I don't want to deal with tenants. Like, I don't want to become a landlord. Hire a property manager. Like, you can hire so many different skills that you don't know. It's leveraging that I think that you guys have definitely won in this situation. Because if you don't know, then you hire someone or you figure it out. So I love that. I'm really curious how you're adding square footage to these properties. Like, what's the square footage when you buy them? Are you digging out basements? Are you adding more floors? What does that look like?
Yeah. Answer is yes to all that. We are definitely adding quite a bit to some of the projects. So I can take you just very quickly through the three of them that we have underway right now. So Dover Court was, we did a big addition off of the back. So we underpinned. So we dropped the basement. The basement was actually decent height. I think we had 7 foot clear in the basement, but we went to 8.5. It just has a different feel at 8.5 feet in the basement. And we know that we're going to get, higher rents when it comes to that. And, if we're running off a cap rate, even if we're running off a 4 cap, which is kind of that standard in Toronto, if we get an extra $200 a month for a basement apartment because we have 8.5 foot ceilings versus 7, it's basically a 20 times multiplier, right? With a 4 cap. So you add $200 a month in revenue, while you're adding, $440,000 in value to your property, right? So it's an easy no brainer for us to be like, yeah, absolutely makes sense. It pays for the underpinning. One extra apartment, getting $200 a month extra pays for that entire underpinning. In terms of Oakmount was actually a bigger footprint. So Dover Court was about 4,000 square feet inside the house. We're going to 6,000 square feet. Oakmount was a bigger property. It was about 4,500, but we're going to 6,000 as well. And Glen Lake is a small little bungalow, basically, that we're basically doubling the footprint, and then we go full 3 stories for all of our buildings, and that's how we get the 8 units, right? Some are more cookie cutter in terms of like how we design them, but Oakmount is kind of like this building that it was wider, so we split it in half, and we do 2 units in the basement, main floor, second floor, and third floor. That's our 8 units. Glen Lake is like a little bungalow, and we're basically adding another bungalow beside it and going 3 stories. So again, 2 in the basement, 2 on the main floor, 2 second floor, 2 third floor. And Dover Court is like a dog's breakfast. It's just like all over the place. We have like 3 units in the basement. The main floor is like one massive 3-bedroom unit, and then it's kind of like all over the place. So that's just like, we had to work with the existing floor plan, and that was kind of a weird, chopped up building. So we just created 8 units out of that, and we had some struggles there with, floor plans, and we've kind of redesigned a little bit. Even when we got into construction, we're like, this kitchen sucks, and let's, move a couple things around, and let's make the spaces, just a little bit more viable. And Alona's got a great eye for that, and just looking at things and how are we going to set it up with furniture and where's everything going to live. And that's, kind of how we make those last minute changes if we need to.
That's interesting. And it's so great to hear how you adapt. Like, you're not looking for one cookie cutter thing that then you would say no to everything else, but you're making other things work. So I really like that. And I think that's why you guys are having so much success in finding different properties, because you can think outside of the box. You're doing additions, digging out basements, adding more square footage, which is great. You did mention a little bit about challenges, and I know that you guys are very, you put everything out there that you're dealing with. Do you want to talk to us about some challenges that you guys have faced while doing these types of projects?
Which one? We could talk for hours on challenges for each of the projects.
Give me a couple.
Glen Lake was probably the most interesting closing I've ever done. We to Alona's point, it came on the market. We saw it right away. We made a bully offer, which I've never done successfully. They accepted it. And then I think, maybe a week later, Alona, we got served with a lawsuit for buying a property on MLS, which we were like so confused about. But what had happened was the previous buyer, to our knowledge, we're not 100% sure of what happened, but I think what happened was the seller sold it to somebody else previous to us. That transaction didn't close, or this is the information that we got. Then they basically decided to keep that person's deposit, from what we understand. And then they put the property back on the market. And then we were blind to all of this. We purchased it. And then they basically, the previous buyer sued the seller and our realtor and us, although they didn't even know who we were. They called us Jane and John Doe in the lawsuit. And then we were kind of in limbo with this property that we had under contract and we had already gone firm on. And now we're dealing with a lawsuit, which was, a bit of a stressful thing, because now we can't bring in investors, right? Because it was, I couldn't go, with the go out to the investor network that we have and say, hey, you want to join us on our new 8-unit conversion? Oh, by the way, there's a lawsuit pending. Like, it's not an easy conversation to have. So we basically were in a position where, okay, well, we have to close on this thing on our own, right? So without any investor money, without anybody else. And if we get it in our control and we clear this lawsuit, which was kind of the advice that we were getting, we were like, we've been dragged into this. There's some other motivator here by this other party. And once that's clear, if we can get title to the property and we can, get rid of this lawsuit, this is still a very viable project that we're so excited about. So we wanted to keep moving forward on it, but we knew that we had to close on it on our own. So we ended up doing that. The lawsuit settled at the 11th hour. We ended up getting clear title to the property. And then we raised capital after the fact that we had it in our control. And now we can go out and have those conversations with the investors and not have to really discuss this lawsuit that was happening in the background. So, but it did pose some struggles. I mean, it was, we were kind of, at the 11th hour again with the lender, with their B lender, they were sort of asking me all these questions because I was on title with my corporation. And I thought for sure, I was like 100%, this is not going to happen. They're going to pull funding and we're not going to be able to close on time. We're going to have to go private. And then for whatever reason, they just said, yeah, okay, you're good to go. And we had a backup plan, as we always do. But the difference between, 3.39% with a B lender and, 10 or 12% makes a big difference on a project of this scale and scope. So that was just one of the challenges that we dealt with. And each project has had its own little unique things that we could talk about for days.
Love it. That was one of the videos that I had watched and I was like, wow. There's definitely some things that come up, but I have not heard of that one. So I love that you guys are sharing that too. So that's a great story. We do have a question here from Morgan Harris. She said, do you have a designer on your team or do you outsource?
Yeah, so as far as the floor plans and the beginning of the process, we have obviously architects / designers, and they work within what's allowable, and they know the bylaws and the codes and that kind of thing. And then when it comes to floor plans, we really just take that last stab at, okay, realistically speaking, like an architect's going to just do what he feels or she feels works for the space. And then we just make minor adjustments as far as the design goes. And then as far as a designer for the interior stuff and the exterior, that pretty much falls on me. And then Darren has a ton of experience too. So we kind of, I pick out all the finishes and floors and kitchens and things like that. And then like Darren mentioned previously, sometimes you're on site and things are already framed and you're like, well, this doesn't look right. So we'll make those minor adjustments as we go. But as far as like an interior designer for the finishes and stuff, that's really lays on my plate. And floor plans we adjust as we go, and it's obviously different for every situation. But we do, trust our architects and our designers on that front end to make everything to code and have the proper exits and stuff like that. So we have to work around those specifics too.
Yeah, that's great. That's probably one of my favorite things. My background's interior design. So whenever I get to like sink my teeth into a project like that, and you just talking about it gets me so excited. So that's great that you get to handle that. And then Darren's on the construction side. So I've done a couple flips with an investor that I just do the design work, but just the back and forth is so fun. And when you get to a place where this is all fun and like the stressful nights, the challenges that come up are just hiccups. Like it's all, you're building something so amazing and it just becomes a fun process. So I love that. And thanks, Morgan, for asking the question. I've got another question here. So with conversion projects, what do you think the pros are of doing a conversion over just buying an apartment building that's already has these 8 units, maybe has tenants in it that are undervalued that you could maybe get up with renovations on the units? What's the pros of doing a conversion instead?
We looked at this, when Alona and I first started partnering, we were like, hey, let's go and buy some multifamily and turn it over and do exactly that. The value add strategy of just, upping the rents and refinancing. I think what it came down to, and this is, what we really realized early was that wasn't our passion. What our passion was is development and really building and creating. And this is something that I would encourage everyone to do is to find their niche and find their passion. I think that if you look at how money is made in real estate, development is the largest, it's the biggest, piece of the pie. If you look at development projects that are successful, they're the most, profitable. And so when we looked at, taking existing stock and just upping the rents and things like that, we looked at the numbers, of course, and we're like, it's decent. But I think when we looked at development and taking a building that is like, let's say $2 million and spending $1.5 million, and then you've got a $5 million building at the end, well, you've just created $1.5 million in equity in 12 to 18 months. And we didn't see anything else that in all the projects that we looked at where we could create that much equity in that short of amount of time. And so that's why we really like this space. And also because, like I say, we're very passionate about it. Alona mentioned our 44 unit like condo build in Barrie, which is going to be a phenomenal project, but it just happens a lot slower, right? I mean, we're in zoning pre-approval right now. Then we got to go to site plan control. Then we got to get building permits. Then we got to build it. Then we got to sell it. And, so we're looking at 3 to 4 years, which is a standard development project. So I think that's why we like this little niche market of this Toronto conversion, because it happens faster and we can create a similar amount of equity in a building. And that's why I think this strategy really appealed to us.
I love that. And I think it's great to, you eliminate a lot of other people that are doing, like you're on a larger scale. So as you said in the beginning of this, it's not like you're doing a duplex conversion, which I think a lot more investors are doing. You're doing something that's a little bit larger than everyone else is doing. And you're keeping all of these projects, right? When you refinance, the idea is that you're keeping them long-term.
Yeah, that's the plan. Yeah, the plan is to refinance after we're finished, after stabilization and getting all the units rented out, getting as much of the investor equity out as we can. It's not always possible on projects of this scope. So we do, it's really a 5-year investment for our investors, right? That's the goal. It's not a perfect BRRRR, and that's right, because the returns are still there, and it's in an amazing market in Toronto, and really that's what, on top of the forced appreciation from the development, we sit and wait. And obviously we all know that, time in real estate is where the money's at. So for our investors, it's a 5-year investment. And then for us, the goal is to hold these long-term, but our investors have an opportunity to exit at that 5-year mark. And at that 5-year mark, we'll refinance. And at that point, our investors would get all their money back and start seeing returns. So
that's great. And I'm so glad you just touched on that. It's not the perfect BRRRR. I think too many people are out there looking for that home run project and missing so many, obviously you're creating a lot of equity in these projects. You're creating long-term wealth. And if you were looking for the perfect BRRRR, I think you would have missed a lot of opportunity, and you're yeah, there's growth and appreciation and so many different factors that you guys are looking at. So I love that you guys just touched on that, because I am all about that. Everyone's like, I want to burr something, and they're looking for that perfect burr. But if you don't take the smaller wins along the way and you're only looking for that perfect burr, you're going to lose out on a lot of projects. So Morgan's asking another question here. What are your most favorite and least favorite parts of this type of career, this type of real estate career?
I have a lot of least favorite parts. And I think that to your point, Lindsay, you mentioned earlier, you asked the question, and it's really, what do you love to do? And Darren touched on it too. Like, what's your passion? Find what your passion is. And a lot of people, again, back to another point, is, can I do this? There are people that have amazing skills that come from a corporate world or come from another. Find what you really love to do and try to fit that into what you're doing. So my least favorite parts are things like bookkeeping and, that the nitty gritty stuff. I'm more the big picture visionary. I get excited about the ideas and finding and hunting the deal. And I don't even eat what I kill. I'm like, I just want to hunt it, and then just keep going on to the next, and just growth. Right. So those are like my favorite parts: design, growth, finding the opportunities, finding investors, that kind of thing. And then the nitty gritty stuff, the details that have to be done, they're not my favorite particularly, but it is what it is. Some things you can outsource. We have an assistant that does things here and there for us, but that's just part of growing a business. And really, I think it's when you're looking at if you can do this, or if you want to do this, or if you want to learn the construction, are you doing this do you want to be more passive? Because that's not going to be this strategy. It's not passive. We work tons of hours a week doing things that we don't particularly love, right? So if you're just looking to make some money in real estate, there's a million other ways. One of them is pre-construction. I mean, here's my deposit, call me in 3 years when my money's ready, right? Or invest with somebody that's already doing it, like us. Our investors are passive, because most of the things that we do aren't their favorite thing to do. They'd rather go and have their corporate career or do whatever they do and enjoy that. So for me, the bookkeeping, the nitty gritty stuff, the admin, the lawyer stuff, like that kind of stuff I hate. And I do love the design. I do love hunting for the deals, getting out there, talking to investors, making money for everybody that's involved, right? So that's kind of, I'll throw it to Darren for his favorites.
Yeah, I think mine, my favorite part is just seeing the projects come together. I love, if I could be on site every day, because I, have a background in construction. It's one of my favorite things, is to just watch the building come together. Like at Dovercourt right now, like the electricians and the plumbers are in there right now. The roof is going on. The windows have been ordered. Like, to me, they're just seeing the progress, and at the end, standing back and saying, wow, we built this, we put this project together. That's my favorite part. My least favorite part is pretty simple. It's 3 words: the city of Toronto. Just going through the municipal red tape with any of these kinds of projects is such a draining process. I don't quite understand it, to be honest with you. Like, I don't get that we have a housing crisis in our country, and we have all of these municipalities that are just tightening down the rules and regulations of everything. People ask me all the time, like, why is real estate keep growing? And why? I'm like, it's the simple economics of supply and demand. When you choke supply, obviously demand goes through the roof, and therefore pricing goes through the roof. You want to solve the housing crisis? Well, guess what? Give small developers like us the incentive to go out and create apartment buildings. They're not there. Do you know what we pay on our projects for development charges? We just paid $405,000 to the city of Toronto to build an 8-unit apartment building in a prime neighborhood in Toronto. Well, how many people have the means to do that? That's just the development charges, right? So they're treating us like the large developer down the street who's doing 100 units, and they're selling those units, and they're passing those development charges off to the end user. Well, we don't have that ability as to hold this as a rental. So that's my least favorite part, is just that the municipalities, especially Toronto, they just don't want to work with small developers and incentivize them to create rental housing, which is what they need. So it's a frustrating thing, and it's something that, you know, we wish would be different, and maybe they will change at some point. But that's my least favorite part, is just dealing with the bureaucracy.
Yeah, definitely. I was at my project yesterday, and my contractor was like, just so you know, like, it's not going to be fun dealing with the city. And it sucks that you have to like go through, like, you're creating density, you're helping the market, you're putting more rental units in, when it seems like I put a rental property on the market and I get 50 responses. Like, obviously there's a need for this. So yeah, I think that's so important. And Alona, yeah, I relate really well to you, like your favorite parts of the business too. But there's always going to be challenges. And I think that that's so important to note. When you talk about passions, it's not always rainbow and sunshine. It's not. Passion is actually being willing to suffer for something that you love. So I think that you guys have definitely found that, because it's not all up. There's going to be ups and downs as you go along. And I think that you guys have really figured out how to deal with this and have fun along the way, show other people how to do it. Can you talk to us a little bit about your apartment course and your conversion, like what you guys are doing for other investors?
Yeah, the apartment conversion course was honestly more than I think we ourselves imagined, and we were so grateful. We had a wonderful group of people, and it's really something that we came up with, like you said, Lindsay, to help other people realize what the process looks like, because I think people get a little bit afraid, and they get stuck in that, like I said, analysis paralysis, because they don't know kind of what the steps are. If you can really see a map of what this looks like and what's entailed, then you can make more of an educated decision if this is something that I want to do, or hey, like 90% of this is stuff that I would never want to do, right? And really, we've learned so much through our experience over the past 18 months of just doing things, and surprises coming in, even from the city or from construction or from finding deals or whatever the case is, that we didn't even realize how many things we knew until we started putting the course together. And we're like, whoa, this is going to be awesome to share this knowledge and share experience, because experience is really where you learn, right? So if you're stuck in that trying to learn mode and forever, it's harder, right? So we really condensed so much information into this apartment conversion course that's really relatable to any. It doesn't need to be an apartment. It could be a duplex. It could be a triplex. It could be anything. And walking them through step by step, how to find a property, how to run your numbers, what the zoning looks like, how to get investors, how to raise money, how to stabilize, what legal structure you should be under. And then we have our guests come in, our guest speakers, our lawyers, our accountants, so they can hear it from the horse's mouth. This is the best way, to do this or to do that. So it's really one of the things that we love doing, is giving back. And we run our Level Up meetup, our Lend and Learn program. There's a lot of things that we do to give back, to show people, really, again, if you know the process and you have the right network, you can do this too.
Awesome. What's next for you guys?
I think we're looking at doing more of these kinds of projects, but I think we're also looking at getting into some bigger transactions. I think this Barrie project is probably more along the lines of what we want to do. Ground up builds, in that 30 to 45, sort of 50 unit range. We haven't done a project that we've sold all the units off, and I think our Essa Road project is probably going to be the first one that we're going to do that with. As much as we like the idea of holding these long-term rentals, one of the things that I've learned in my years of being a real estate investor, and Alona and I talk about this a lot, is, do you have cash in your business, right? I mean, cash is king. There's no question about it. And although these projects would be great long-term buy and holds, the financing looks different on a rental building of 44 units than it does when you're selling 44 units at the market value. So if we can exit these projects after 2 to 3 years, pay back our investors, and also put a ton of capital into our business that allows us to do other similar kinds of projects, that's kind of what we're looking at right now. We've got a really good balance of long-term buy and hold rental units in the portfolio. And now it's like, how do we just shore up cash? And then what do we want to do after that? I think that both Alona and I are not in a position where we want to work for another 15 years. I think it's like, how do we come up with a 5-year plan? How do we execute that? And then after that, do we decide, that we want to continue to do things because we want to, instead of feeling like we maybe have to. So I think that's what's next for us, is just looking at bigger opportunities. It's funny, like you just that mindset shift, and Alona kind of touched on it with our course attendees. We thought, like, teach them how to do a duplex, triplex, 8-unit conversion. And by the end of the course, we had people coming back looking at development projects for like $20 million and raising, $3 to $4 million in capital. And I think that even surprised themselves, that they were like, oh yeah, well, now that it's clear about the process, it doesn't seem so daunting. And, I think that was our big takeaway too, is, when you raise $1 million, it's just as easy to raise $3 or $4 million. You got to set in place a system, and then you just follow it. So I think that's where we want to go, is just to some bigger stuff.
That's so great. It's so inspiring to see what you guys have been able to accomplish. And I love that you also touched on mindset. Mindset is the number one thing that has to change for all of this to kind of come into place. And you have to have that mindset piece. I remember when I first started into real estate investing, I would attend all of these courses, and it would just always talk about mindset first. And I'm like, okay, but I just want to get into the numbers. Like, I got to figure out how to do all of this. Like, stop with this mindset thing. And then when it all really clicked, that's when everything was a game changer. So I'm so glad that you guys have taken the time today out of your busy schedules. I'm sure you've got lots on the go. So thank you so much, Darren, Alona, Kyle, for being here. And thanks for sharing everything that you did today. I'll give it to you guys for the last out. And then, thanks for everyone that attended as well.
Yeah, no, thank you guys for having us. I think this is it's a fun topic to discuss, because I think it's a little bit unique and, something that we're very passionate about, obviously, but really appreciate you having us on today.
Thanks so much, Lindsay. This was awesome. We love sharing our story and what we're up to. And if anybody has any other questions, feel free to reach out to us. We're always happy to talk to new investors, seasoned investors, about all different sorts of opportunities and the process and things like that. So open invitation to your listeners here. Reach out anytime. And thanks so much again.
Amazing. Thanks, guys, and have a wonderful weekend.
You too.